Good morning. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hi, happy Friday, everybody.
Friday, it feels like Saturday.
Not quite yet. We have a 3-hour workshop and then weekend, right?
Okay. That sounds good to
for most
me.
people. Yes, yes. Nice to see everyone. Hopefully you got some nice rest. As a few more people are going to be joining us, let's go ahead and do our renaming of ourselves if we can. Hovering over your own image, find that ellipsis menu, scroll down to rename and put the name you would like to be called and the city in which you live.
Oh, what you'd like to be called, not what you're called usually. Okay.
Yes, because that may be different
Yes,
on
Perry.
a day-to-day
What do you
basis.
prefer?
Yes. Do you have a nickname for us today, Perry?
Just what people used to call me when I worked for the city.
What's that?
Which was?
Jerk from the city.
The jerk from the city?
I was a code enforcement officer. Yeah, no one ever wanted to see me.
Did you write a lot of tickets?
A lot of tickets.
Uh-oh.
A long time in the courtroom.
Bad news bears. Well, I'm glad you're so nice as a human. Maybe it kind of made up for it. I'm not sure. That's a tough one.
I was always a nice guy anyway. So I never wrote a ticket that I didn't offer them away to. I spent many a weekend mowing lawns, as a matter of fact, for folks I wrote tickets to. So.
Oh, really? Interesting. Huh. Okay. We'll have to have a side convo about that. I'm interested in that.
Very nice.
Oh my gosh.
I used to get in
Okay.
trouble because I didn't write enough tickets. So.
Oh,
I'm writing
okay.
you
From
the
city.
ticket because I have a quota, but I swear I'll come and mow your lawn.
No, they say, you got a quote? And I said, not really. I can write as many as I want. So.
You don't have to stay under a threshold.
Mhm.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I think most of us are here. I see, is it Letta? Is that what you'd like to be called, Letta? Okay. And I see you're also maybe on another device. Is that true?
Yeah, Harshad's device is signed on too.
Let me help to unmute you, Letta. We can't hear you right now. So I just hit the button. You can say,
There you go.
there we go. Okay. Hi there. So I see you have a second device today.
Well, I got rid of the iPhone.
Ah, okay. So is Harshad still signed on?
Yeah, so that will be on Harshad's pad.
Okay,
Okay.
so we just go ahead and leave him connected then?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. Good to know.
I love the view outside your window there.
Yes, nice background, Lada.
The perpetual sunset. I love it. That's beautiful. And then Miriam, it looks like you might have connected your video with your phone today, which is very handy. So you're not split personality. Are you able to unmute yourself? Let's see. There we go.
There you go.
Let's try your audio, Miriam. Can you speak?
No, it is through my phone again. It's not working, the computer one.
No, that's
But at least
perfect.
you've connected your visual with your audio. So now you still only have one box, which is awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah, moving on up in that technology world. I don't know if everyone here knows you can do that, but you can combine phone audio with your video picture. And so it's one box, which is really amazing with Zoom. All right, everybody. So nice to see your faces. And here we are for day 2. Welcome back. Again, I'm Shannon in Santa Fe. And we have Rachel and Kelly helping out with us today. It looks like we have a guest, Meg. I think you are going to be here for the roundtable. You're welcome to hang out. That's great. And that roundtable, just so you know, will happen at the top of the hour, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So we have some fun things to do before then. Let's see, I think I sent a link to a few of you who might not have filled out that agreement, the support group leader agreement, which is that form, and you put your name in and check the box. So just a reminder to do that if you haven't already done so. And then also if you have your printed materials, just to make sure you have those next to you and have a pen or a pencil to write with, and your beverage of choice. I've got my bubbles, my sparkling water, which I love, much more interesting than regular water. Yes, you have coffee there, Judy? Excellent. I had my whole French press, so I think that I need to call it quits for the coffee this morning so I don't bounce off the walls. Okay, and let's see here. I'm going to start to share my screen with you. Here we go. Okay. You seeing that, everybody? Okay, perfect. So welcome back to our NSYNC 2021 workshop. Just a quick little reminder of our collaboration agreements that we went over yesterday. So just to please use that mute button when necessary to avoid the background noise. I welcome you to listen deeply to one another as we share, and use that yes and strategy that we borrow from improv to keep everything positive and building on one another's ideas. To be cognizant of how much time we're taking when we share, moving with intention, just to make sure everybody has a chance to participate, and then being patient with technology and with the operators. That would be lovely. And this morning, I thought we could do a little check-in exercise. So this is something that you could potentially do with your own groups. You might think of it as a warm-up or an icebreaker, something like that. So if we were in real life, what I would love to do with us is we can imagine ourselves in a space and making a big circle. And we could go around one by one and have a little moment to share something. And even if we use our voices and are communicating that way, we could also add a movement with that, and everyone could follow along with a movement as that each person is sharing something. So just if you can imagine this scenario, but in an in-person context. So this here and now exercise, I'm calling it, it's a brief exercise, but potentially pretty powerful. Yesterday we mentioned the importance of gratitude, right? As we're working from that fear zone into growth and into or learning into growth. So I would love to do what I'm calling a gratitude chat storm. So we have that fun feature on Zoom called the chat box. So at the bottom of your screen, you can hover over your Zoom window, find that chat box, make sure that that pane opens up on the right-hand side. And so this here and now exercise is just a way to get everyone in the room to participate off the bat, right at the beginning of the meeting. So no one is sitting back, hanging out, just listening and observing. You're asking them to participate, and they then feel a part of something, right? And they're contributing. And it's a way to become more present, really think about how you're feeling right here and now in this space, and then just sharing with one another and learning about each other. So this gratitude chat storm, what I wanted you to do is to think of something that you are grateful for right now. It can be something big, something, larger in scope, world peace, that sort of thing, or well, we don't have a lot of peace right now, but that would be a hope. Or something small like Judy's coffee, she's happy to have that. So think about something you're grateful for, and I would love you to type that into the chat box so that we can all learn about what the others are grateful for today. So Rachel is grateful for her rescue dogs and sunshine. Love that. Oh, freedom. So Dave, yes, you went on the large scale side of things, and it's beautiful. We do have freedom. What else? friends entertaining my husband. Okay, yeah, exactly. So thank you, Charlene, for that, for sharing that you have the ability to participate with us today fully. Feeling well enough to go outside, children. Oh, I see 3 families in a row. That's a big one. Common theme. Good night's
Good
sleep.
night's sleep.
That's huge. Oh my gosh. And I am grateful for, if I can get my chat box to work.
Besides your French press.
Besides my French press, the flowers that I have in front of me on my table to remind me of beautiful nature and all the colors in nature. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of warm and fuzzy as we realize what we're grateful for, and then we take it a step further by actually sharing it with someone else. And then that other person can get the benefit of hearing about what you're grateful for, and then absorbing that positive energy, that energy that we were talking a lot about yesterday, even through the Zoom screens. So thank you so much for sharing that today. I just really encourage all of us to utilize gratitude in our support groups, in our own lives, to help shape our brains, our minds, our neural pathways into more positivity. Yes. So thank you for playing. Okay, so I am going to just briefly recap, what we did yesterday. We talked about the new normal, the next normal, whatever you want to call it. What does that mean for us as support group leaders? How are we going to move forward in this uncertain time? We talked about the fear, learning, and growth model, and how to use that as a framework for a process of moving forward into greater wellness for our support group members. We talked about in the roundtable, what do we miss? What do we miss most about being in person? What do we want to keep? Those pandemic era inventions that we talked about, the silver linings, and how do we want to kind of pick and choose? And we use that above the line, below the line activity that Rachel shared with us on how to really figure out what's important to us in our lives and moving forward. So today, day 2, we're going to be concentrating on the path to wellness, and we're going to be looking at another model also created by the National Wellness Institute, which again, I love that organization. They created this awesome model of multidimensional health that we're going to use throughout our discussion today and in our roundtable as well. So it's going to help us better understand the ways in which we can help our members be healthier and enjoy like a higher quality of life. How can they live their lives more fully? So we'll go into the concept of wellness in general. What does that mean? There's a lot of ambiguity around that. Like, what's the difference between, health and well-being and wellness and these kind of terms that are thrown around? So we'll learn about that, go through a brief history, and we'll look at tools, specific tools that you can use as support group leaders to help your members. I think this is going to be a really interesting, rich discussion today. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of us about your ideas. And then after the roundtable, we're going to be looking into ways to keep our group meetings more engaging, more dynamic. I know a couple of you, I think, maybe a couple of you were on yesterday's therapy break, which was improv for Parkinson's. So Judy was there. Was anyone else there? Can you just raise your hand if you were there, Dave? Oh, yes. Okay, cool. So we'll talk about the importance of play and why is that important for us as adults to continue to be playful? And then what are ways we can do that in our groups to help us learn and connect with one another. So we'll be doing that toward the end of our session today. Is everyone doing okay? I know it's early. Can I get a thermometer? This would be medium, good, not so great. This is a really good instant overall view of your group members if you needed to kind of see how people are doing. Okay, and I did see, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pause for a moment. I'm a terrible multitasker. I saw something come through my chat that I needed to look at.
Did you make up that thermometer?
I did not. This summer, or just a couple of weeks ago, I went to an 8-day movement retreat in nature in Washington State. It was amazing. So every day, we would be tired physically, mentally, emotionally. And so we would give our thermometers of how we were feeling mentally and how we were feeling physically. And so you could see 30 of us in a big circle. Okay, where is everybody? And then the facilitators, the coaches could adapt based on how we were feeling. So I think I love that thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
Very silly. Dad joke for sure. All righty. Okay, so it looks like somebody joined us. Was it you, Marilyn? Okay, hi there. I saw the boxes move. Welcome. Good morning. All right. So here we go. Let us move forward. So we're going to start with this funny cartoon. I really like this one. It's the one size fits all store, and there is a sale, but guess what? What's going on the outside there? So yeah, maybe not so much. So I love this cartoon as an analogy to kind of talk about the experience of someone living with a movement disorder or Parkinson's. So we call Parkinson's the snowflake disease, right? Everyone is so different, and then one person with Parkinson's is one person with Parkinson's, right? You can't apply or think or assume that anyone is experiencing the same thing, even on a daily or minute by minute basis. So I just think this is so applicable when talking about people living with Parkinson's. I also like to use this when comparing like the application of strategies to help someone. So if everyone is so different, then that means that each person is going to need something very unique to them. They're going to have their own strategies and tactics, approaches to help them be the best that they can be, physically, emotionally, etc. So is that ringing true for anyone here? Yeah, I see a thumbs up from Dave. Did you want to maybe say a little something, how this cartoon hits for you?
I have a little different perspective on things with the training I had. And I tell my patients that everyone is an individual. There's no place for protocols. I don't care what they're addressing, whether it's Parkinson's or anything. No one should fit into a protocol because just like this shows, everyone presents differently. And so you need to go after where the limitations are. It may be in the foot, it may be in the hip, it may be in the thoracic spine. And so anyway, you need to tailor a program for someone based on how they present.
Absolutely. And how they present physically, like you're just saying, their limitations in their bodies, but all those things are invisible as well. So we don't know what people are experiencing, even more so non-motor wise, right?
Or what their goals are.
Sure.
You need to get into its body, mind, and spirit.
Oh, yes, I love it. We're on the right path already.
Gotta address the whole person.
I love it.
I'll stop talking.
No, that was like, you're our spokesperson for the day, Dave. Carolyn, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, as a therapist, I'm of the same mindset. Each person comes to me for different reasons, but the strategies I implement is very different. Again, for the person, need to find out what their strengths are, what might be helpful for them. So each session is very, very different. Same like Dave says, you've got to come from where the person is, find out what their goals are, and then kind of make your plan accordingly.
Wonderful. So Carolyn, you said the therapy, right? Is it talk therapy?
No, I'm a licensed professional counselor. So
A counselor,
I do,
okay.
yeah, CBT therapy.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And I was just curious how you discover these things about your clients. You know, is it something over time, or do you have a big form that they might fill out? And you know, just I'm curious how you learn what these things are.
Usually I start off with a meet and greet. So the first session is really just kind of them telling me what's going on and me telling them who I am to make sure it's a good fit.
Mhm.
After that, the next couple sessions is really just them trying to help me better understand what's really going on.
Mhm.
And then as I start looking at a treatment plan, I do have a sheet that has like 50 different treatment goals. And I literally go through each one of them because, again, even though they haven't said it yet, as I talk about it, they're like, oh, yeah, that would be something that I want to work on. And so it's helpful to actually go through each one of those and see how that relates to whatever's going on with them.
That's neat. Yes, I like that saying where, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And so if you have these 50 things and it might spark something for them that they didn't even realize could have been missing. So thank you for sharing that. That's neat. Yeah, Miriam.
Yes, so I'm wondering, this came up again personally. You know, last night I was trying to convince my mother, who has Parkinson's, to, you know, join one of these online Zoom meetings. And her reaction was, well, you know, everyone that has Parkinson's, we're all going through different things, and I don't want to hear from, you know, what other people are going through because mine is worse. So I'm wondering, it came up with my mother, but professionally it comes up too. How do you convince someone to get that support? I understand that you're all experiencing different symptoms of Parkinson's, but there is a unique identifying factor. Whatever your diagnosis is unites you. But I think, and not having a group leader such as yourself who seems so in tuned and is not meeting what we say, like meeting the client or the patient where they're at. So I'm just wondering, like, a little advice, how do you convince and validate, you know, a patient that's talking that way?
That's an interesting question. I know some of you here are quite experienced support group leaders, and you might have run into some folks who are a little more reluctant or unsure. And, you know, that could be someone who's recently been diagnosed and maybe there's a lot of fear going on. You know, sometimes people who are younger, who have been diagnosed young onset, they don't particularly want to see someone who's late stages because they just don't want to kind of know yet. So there's a little bit of denial going on. Anybody have any suggestions as far as what Miriam is asking in regards to her mother and being reluctant to take part in a support group right now? Carolyn, I saw your hand. You're muted. There you go.
I wonder how it'd be if you were just to allow her to have the conversation, you to have the conversation with somebody while you're on Zoom and let her be in the same room. So she's just kind of, you're introducing it kind of as a sidebar kind of thing, and then allowing her to experience it that way and see if it's something that she would at some point be willing to kind of join you and expand on it. Because I think throwing somebody in a group, I think that could shut them down. And so just allowing her to have that experience on the side, I think might let her realize that it's something that maybe she'd get curious about.
Great points, Carolyn. Yes. So maybe helping her out initially, being side by side with her. She doesn't even have to be on camera. You could turn your video off, maybe baby steps. Dave?
Well, so often with Parkinson's, they're given no hope. And so if you can instill a little bit of hope, get involved with someone who's getting stronger and their balance is improving and those kind of things, because we can do that with Parkinson's. Everyone hears that it's a progressive neurological disease and there is no cure, and they figure, well, this is as good as it gets. I can't get any better. So if you can encourage people that no, you can improve your strength, you can improve your balance, you can improve your endurance. So that's kind of where I would go with it. And just give her some hope so that maybe she will look. I mean, she may be sitting there thinking, what's the use?
Good point, Dave. Does anybody else have anything to add? Perry, go ahead and unmute yourself there. I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you go.
I agree a lot of what Dave was talking about there, that you know, people are bringing decades and decades of their own personal experiences and life with them. And that's why a lot of times I think it's so important to let everyone have the chance to talk about themselves a little bit, because and to let them know that the Parkinson's, no matter to what degree they have, it doesn't define them, and always that it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder if you look at things day to day than if you look at things on a little, like maybe month to month, and you can look back and say, hey, this has improved just a little bit. And you get these little tiny victories that just add up and build momentum and give it a chance to blossom a little bit.
Thank you, Perry. Yeah, that's great insight there. And I have heard from a number of people, and we'll get to you, John, in just a moment. Thank you. That people are so grateful once they actually do go into the support groups and start meeting other people in the Parkinson's community, how many friends that they end up having, and long-term, lifelong friends. And without Parkinson's, they never would have met these people. And so they have a lot of richness in their lives because of their diagnosis, which is really kind of maybe something you wouldn't think about. John, would you like to share?
I'd just like to say that in my own experience, I had to make a choice, being open about Parkinson's or reclining, being a shut-in, so to speak, because my symptoms I couldn't hide my symptoms. And so I chose to be open about it. And I find that it put people at ease. Once I explained to them that, okay, I'm shaken because I have Parkinson's, but that doesn't define who I am. And as far as Dave's point, again, from my own experience, for the last 5 years, each year I've taken a test. I forgot what the test is called, but it's a time test where you go through certain movements, and so it's always the same test. And each year for the last 5 years, my timing has improved. So the last test that I went through was a couple of weeks ago, and the therapist said, well, I was performing at the level of a 50-year-old, and I'm 80 years old. So I thought that was pretty good. So it isn't. Yeah, it's an incurable disease, but to reinforce Dave's point, we can do something about it. We can, and I like to encourage people to do that. And don't just give up and say, okay, there's nothing I can do. There are things you can do, and you can still have a reasonably fulfilled, happy life. And that's the message that I like to try to put across to people that are, afraid to come out of their house or their bedroom because somebody might see them shaking a little bit. No, don't worry about it. You can do something about it. And I, like you said ago, I've made a lot of new friends, a new family or a new tribe that I identify with.
Wow, how inspiring, John. That is amazing to hear that you've improved through these years. And it's just a testament to how hard you've been working, right? I mean, we all know, like, that means you're doing your exercise, you're not giving up, and so, that's a wonderfully inspiring story. And something that I hope that Miriam's mom would be able to hear and learn from and be inspired by. So yes, that's exactly kind of what we're going to be talking about today. It's like, how do we get to those folks and how do we inspire them to want to help themselves? Because it comes from the inside, and sometimes, yes, they need some help from other people, from their support structure, their in the medical world or at home, that kind of thing. But we need to empower them and have them realize that they are not powerless, right? Sheila had mentioned in the chat that her PD friends are closer than their non-PD friends in many ways because of common challenges and goals, which I find pretty common. Thank you for sharing that, Sheila. And then Rachel agreed as well. If you don't know, Rachel is an adult child of her father who had Parkinsonism. And so she knows this world very intimately.
And what I said earlier in the chat too, Miriam, one thing that we realize is that we may not all be in the same boat. We may be in different boats dealing with different personal things, but in the grand scheme of things, we're all in the same storm together. And for your mom to realize that there's going to be commonalities with people that she interacts with in a positive way, and kind of maybe get over that hump of feeling like she's not like anybody else, or what they have is worse than what she has, or something like that. It's really just a matter of meeting some of these like-minded people, and we've got plenty of support groups through PMD Alliance that she would be welcome to join. And if she's flying solo, we have a group for people who are living alone with the disease. We have young onset, so somebody who was diagnosed at a younger age, we've got a group for that. We've got our Tuesday group that Perry and Judy are sort of the leaders of, that is people, anybody with the disease, or adult children, or care partners, or anybody. And then on Thursday for you, Miriam, we have our Care Partners support group, which is for care partners and children. And it would be a place for you to realize that there's a lot of like-minded people like you, who only want to help their parents. And we give tips and tricks and information that will help your mom along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Rachel. Good plug for our support groups that we offer, and we can provide that info to you. I see John in Peoria. If you'd like to unmute, there you go.
Yeah, so one of the things that I started with our support group is, and one of the things that we've pushed a lot through the Parkinson's Foundation is journals and diaries around medications and whatnot. And one of the things that we've seen is if people are documenting their struggles and then coming to the group and kind of talking about what they've experienced over the last month, a lot of the time there are 2 or 3 other people that will chime in and talk about those same things that they've had, that they've documented. And then it kind of lets people see their ups and their downs, and that it does get better at times, and that they are going to have weeks or months where it's worse. But tracking that diary has kind of helped people identify with others the same things that they're experiencing, and also tracking the progress that they're making through exercise.
Great point. Thank you, John. Yes. And in that process, they realize they're not alone, and it normalizes some of these things, right? And so if they do have a down day, they know it's not going to always be down, like it's going to come back. And just to see that and reflected in someone else's life. And so they realize, wow, yeah, okay, they understand me. I don't have to explain, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's move forward as far as how do we move forward from here? Where do we go? What does that path toward wellness even look like? So here's a little fun cartoony picture of what a support group might look like. And as we know, our support groups are filled with people who are each so different, you know, age-wise, physical abilities, ethnic backgrounds. There can be people with disease, family members. So we are obviously seeing that there are many kinds of people, and how could we expect that there is just one path to wellness for everybody? So just to remember how important that is. So one size fits one. Yep. We got to think about this wellness path as a personalized, individualized experience, right? Instead of thinking blanket, one size fits all. Okay, so I have kind of a context slide. This was something that I was looking into just for my personal life. It had been introduced to me, these blue zones. Has anyone here, raise your hand, heard of the world's blue zones before? Marilyn, Laura, Sheila. Okay, so just briefly, this guy here is named Dan Buettner, I suppose is how you pronounce it. He's the founder of this this research, so Blue Zones USA, and National Geographic Fellow. So I was watching a webinar of him talking about these blue zones, and so I took a screenshot of his presentation, which is what you're looking at right now. So basically, blue zones are 5 cities in the world that happen to share a lot of similarities in that the people living there have longer, happier, healthier lives. So the research is looking into why is that true? What are these people doing to make this possible? And so the cities, I know it's really small on this map, but I wrote them down so we could just look at them. So Loma Linda, California, a city in Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, a city in Greece, and then Okinawa, Japan. All right. And so when he broke everything down, these 5 circles here is what he whittled everything down to as far as the commonalities and all these, how these people were living. So what is the highest one here? Purpose. Yep. So we touched on that. Purpose, meaning in life. That's a huge one. And then healthy lifestyle. So that would be eating wisely, moving naturally. Yep. And then having a healthy environment. So you're not breathing in a lot of chemicals, or there's smog or this or that. So it's your environment is healthy and you're feeding yourself well, and you're moving a lot. And the one I wanted to point out is this one right here, the right tribe. So I love how John Goulet, he has used that term a couple of times yesterday and today, but that is one of the primary factors of wellness, right? It's who we surround ourselves with. And guess what? What are we doing? Support groups. That is creating a tribe for folks and giving them the right support and friendship and community and connection, right? So I just wanted to this is kind of a little side, offshoot, but this is, I think, just supporting the fact that our support groups are so important in what we're doing and making people healthy. Okay, so what is wellness? I have a little definition of wellness that I took from the Global Wellness Institute. So if we listen to this, the Institute defines wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. Okay, so active pursuit of many different things, choices in your life to have holistic health. Okay, so some of the primary factors here in wellness, it's active, it has to be dynamic. You really want to find a balance of many different things. It has to be holistic. You have to be proactive. It's coming from you as an individual. It's very personal. Okay, so these are the things that we're really looking at. Let's see here. I have a couple of notes here. Yeah, I think I am good. Yeah, so history, I won't go into it too much because it does cover 5,000 years. But because I'm a nerd, I just really love, I was like, well, when did that even start? You know, how, the concept of wellness in general. So if you think about 3000 BC, generally, that's Ayurvedic medicine in India, you know, coming from the Hindu texts. We've got traditional Chinese medicine. And, you know, when you think about these two things, traditional Chinese medicine was, you know, Taoist and Buddhist, and so they came from religion, but then think about how holistic they are. So you've got with Ayurveda, you know, you've got, the healthy foods, you have yoga. And with Chinese medicine, you've got Tai Chi, you have acupuncture. So you have these elements that have now been brought back around, you know, and people are doing these things today, but just think about all those thousands of years where it wasn't a part of people's, their world. They either didn't know it existed or, you know, so anyway, I just think it's fascinating that the things that have been around for 5,000 years are still helping us and are very important, you know, meditation, things like that. And so jumping forward in history, I thought this was interesting. So in 500 BC, they estimate in ancient Greece, so the physician Hippocrates, he's thought to be the first physician to try to, what does it say? So he's the first physician to focus on preventing sickness instead of treating the disease. So that's kind of a big discovery, I think, and a different way to approach health. And then, yeah, moving forward hundreds of years, it wasn't until the 1800s here in the West, homeopathy, osteopathy, chiropractic work, naturopathy, things like that. So that is really all about wellness. And then think about, organic farming. That didn't happen until the 50s, the 1950s. Of course, there were chemicals from the war and blah, blah, blah. So we needed to go back to organic farming. And then in the 70s, the gyms where people would work out started to come into play. And then the fitness and spa industries in the 80s. So that's kind of still under that wellness umbrella. And so just to kind of think about where we are with this idea of wellness. It's a huge industry. I have a statistic here where in 2014, the Global Wellness Institute, they released research that found that the global wellness industry was a $3.4 trillion market, and it was 3.4 times larger than the pharmaceutical industry. So think of all that money being spent and going back and forth to increase people's health and wellness outside of medications and such. So let's kind of just keep that history in our minds as we move forward. So this is an interesting little infographic, I think, that also came from the Global Wellness Institute. And so it can be a way to understand wellness and like considering health as a continuum here. So you've got poor health over here on the left. And then if we move over toward the right, you're looking at an optimal state of well-being. So this is basically saying that over here on the left-hand side, patients with poor health, they're engaging in the medical paradigm. So they're just trying to correct things that are already wrong. They just are trying to feel better. The care is very compartmentalized. It's not holistic. And then as you move over here toward the right-hand side on this health continuum, people who are looking into wellness, they're actually interested in thriving, not just surviving, not just making it through, but they're trying to thrive and flourish. And it's more preventive instead of corrective, holistic rather than compartmentalized. So I think hopefully you're starting to get the idea here. So what I would love us to start to do is to think about how we can, as support group leaders, come from that right side of the continuum, the wellness side, not the medical side, right? We want to be proactive about this process and help our support group members before things become a problem, right? That's where we're starting. So that being said, here is our magical 6 dimensions of wellness model from the National Wellness Institute. And you might have your papers with you. There are quite a few PDFs that this organization offers. And I chose this particular model on purpose. When I did my research, I found that the various models of wellness can range from 5 dimensions all the way to like 9 dimensions. So it's very, there's a wide spectrum. I like this one at 6 dimensions. I think it covers all of the main aspects, areas of our lives that we can help people with in support groups. It's very inclusive. And I also love the fact that they have so much free material and resources that we can utilize. Why reinvent the wheel, right? So let's dive a little deeper into this model. All right, so we're going to talk about each of the 6 dimensions here. The first one being occupational. So, we don't have to automatically think that that means having a full-time paid job, that sort of thing. If we're in the support group world, most of us are going to be coming from a volunteer perspective, and we're not going to be paid for this, right? So, but that is still considered work. It's your volunteer work. It's what you do with your time. It's what you do with your energy. So occupational dimension, it can be paid work, volunteer work, it can be full-time or part-time. You might even be a care partner or an adult child. It's kind of part of your work, isn't it? To take care of your loved one. What we want to do is think about how to align that work that you do, the energy output, with your personal purpose, with your goals, like Carolyn was talking about. What are your goals? What do you want to do? How can you be in alignment in that way so you're not spending your time and energy on things that you don't want to? Your time should be inspirational to you, should be kind of self-feeding, so you can get inspiration from that work and then the people you are with. And it should feel like a great fit. Okay, so these are, very large overview bullet points of that occupational dimension. And as we go through these, if you have your papers with you, you might see that there are much more in-depth descriptions of each of these dimensions, which you have for your reference. And then our roundtable today is going to cover these. So just have that in mind, that you can refer to those things. Okay, moving on to the physical dimension. So that's a big one for people who are living with movement disorders, right? Maintaining a healthy diet. We know how important that is. And then the Blue Zones guy, he just underscored that as well. Making sure that we're doing the best we can with our nutrition and feeding ourselves well. Participating in regular exercise. So we all know that exercise is the most important thing that people with movement disorders can do to help slow the progress of that movement disorder, right? Seeking proper medical care. So that is something that support groups can be very helpful for. We have to sort of know our boundaries as far as recommendations and then telling people what they need to do. Of course, we're always supposed to be saying, you need to check with your physician, you need to check with your movement disorder specialist, your neurologist, whoever you're seeing. So that's always the go-to. But, if you live in a certain city and somebody needs a recommendation for a good therapist or a good rock steady boxing teacher, these resources are so important. And that, I think, is part of the medical care ecosystem. And then that last bullet, educating yourself on holistic practices. So what are things like Tai Chi or acupuncture or whatever that might be to you, but what can supplement the care of people? So thinking outside the typical Western medical framework and thinking of all the ways that people might get help. Okay, how are we doing here? I know there's a lot of words on this slide. Are we good? Yes? Doing all right? Okay. Social dimension. So contributing to community. It's important, not, I think, just to, I mean, it's great to get people to show up, but how can they participate? Can they have more engagement? Getting them to talk to one another, getting them to be a part of a process. Enhancing personal relationships, right? So we can all learn skills on how to be a better friend, on how to be a better parent or dog owner or whatever it is. So we can always work on our relationships. And as we know, relationships are very high on the list for just satisfaction, life satisfaction, and for longevity and living long, many years. You know, it's all about people's relationships. Initiating better communication. So that's part of relationships. We can all get more skillful at that and practice. And then preserving the natural environment. I feel like it was John in Peoria yesterday who mentioned, or maybe it was actually one of our guests. I'm sorry if I misunderstood that, but someone said that they were an environmental person. Can't remember who that was. Do you remember? Does anybody remember who that was? Anyway, so making sure that we are contributing to the health of our environment, right? Recycling, you know, they're conserving water, whatever that means to you. So you feel like you're part of a larger system and it's not just you're alone and no matter, your actions don't matter. Your actions absolutely matter. Everyone's do. And so we have to contribute to that. Intellectual dimension here. So Fran, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, she had a thing she had to take care of with her mom, unfortunately, but she was talking about looking into interests that she had and trying new hobbies. So intellectual, this is something that we need to remember to work on and spend time and energy expanding your knowledge about something new. Use that gray matter, you know, we can't just keep doing the same thing we've always done. We need to keep learning. And then sharing your gifts with other people. You know, how can you connect on a deeper level with people and then help them even, you know, or be a mentor of some sort. Pursuing personal interests, that's the same kind of idea, and then challenging yourself with new endeavors. So, you know, lots of crossover here with these bullets, but I think that you're getting the idea. Somebody mentioned reading, doing a lot of reading. Maybe that was Fran as well. So reading instead of watching the boob tube, you know, let's use our brains a little bit more. The spiritual dimension. So developing an appreciation for life, in quotation marks. So depending on where you're coming from, you know, if you happen to be a religious or a spiritual person in some regard, but just understanding that we are part of something bigger, perhaps, and then really digging down and connecting with whatever that is, and having a lot of meaning ascribed to that. Searching for meaning and purpose, as we saw on the blue zones diagram. Purpose is right at the top, and I just read this article about a study saying that the most important thing for longevity is having purpose and meaning in life. Aligning your actions with your values. So we might have morals, ethics, and values that mean a lot to us, but are we walking the walk as well? Yeah. And then attaining a worldview. And again, that's just realizing that we are part of a larger global community and being conscientious of what that means and trying to help other people, right? And then lastly, but not leastly, we have the emotional dimension. So what does that mean? Developing greater self-awareness, right? We were talking yesterday about our fear and learning growth model, and then being self-aware when we realize that we're hopping back and forth between the fear zone and the learning zone based on what's happening with COVID and what's going on in the world. And, you know, we get those fight or flight responses, and then we might act out in weird ways, but then just like, wow, okay, self-awareness. What am I doing? Why do I feel this way? And then making a different choice, right? So this emotional end, developing that ability to see how you're feeling and to make a different choice. Ability to manage your feelings and stress, right? You know, that was also another part of our fear zone, is like taking our anger and our fear and anxiety out on other people when it's not about that, right? It's not coming from them. So being able to control those difficult feelings and not putting them in the wrong place. Maintaining satisfying relationships, super huge. We just talked about that in the social dimension as well. So, but our emotional well-being, you know, having those close personal connections over periods of time where we know where we're supported and loved, and we do the same for others. And then the last bullet there, balancing independence and connection, which I think it's worth noting here what that means for folks who are care partners or adult children, people who are have responsibilities with their families to help take care. And then how do you take care of yourself and also feel like you are contributing, taking care of your loved one, but then finding the proper balance of that. So nothing feels, so you don't get that burnout. You know, keeping these things in mind. So lots of words on this screen. And this is what we're going to be taking with us into the next part of our workshop today, our roundtable discussion with our guests. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then we can move into this next section. We're actually doing really well in time, which is great. All right, and then, yes, I'm just checking the chat now that I've stopped sharing my screen. I can see a little bit more. So thanks for the sharing in the chat, everybody. Yes, see. So Sheila said First Nations people crossed into North America 11 to 13,000 years ago. And so even before, like what I was saying, the 5,000 years of wellness. So absolutely, let's go even further back. And what does that mean? So the First Nations people, you know, many thousands of years ago, holistic medicine based on native plants in this continent, right? And such deep connection to the earth and to the weather systems, and just, you know, thinking so much more holistically than we tend to do today. So thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. Okay, everybody, let us move into our round table. So I see we have people who've joined us. We have Nikki, that's great. Hi, Frank, good to see you. John, hi there. Looks like Christy has joined us, wonderful. And then Meg, you've come back. Am I missing anyone? I'm trying to see. I think that might be everybody. Okay, so let me set this up. So our roundtable will be taking place over the next hour, and this is a chance for our industry partners who are representing or who live and work in mostly the Arizona area. It's a chance for them to meet the support group leaders of that area so we can make these connections. So thank you, partners, for coming on and allowing us to do programs like this for support group leaders across the country. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be going into breakout rooms in just a little while. And so we're going to welcome you to take part in that process. I will post in just a minute what we're going to be discussing. And before that, we're going to have you introduce yourselves, just say a little bit about yourself, maybe where you live and the company you work for. And if you're able to say something about the product or not, just a brief overview of what that might be. And then once the workshop is completed today, I'm going to be providing your contact information to the support group leaders so that they can be in touch with you about whether they'd love to have you do a presentation with their groups, whether that be on Zoom, and who knows about the future, getting back in person. We're just going with that flow. But just wanted to give you a sense of what's happening and why we're doing this. So we just want to connect everybody. And because the information, the resources that you have are invaluable to them as group leaders and to their support group members. It looks like we just got Joey who signed on, so welcome. So we're going to go one by one if we could. I see Nikki is first on my list or my screen, and so if you'd like to introduce yourself, Nikki, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. My name is Nikki Peacock. I am with Synovian Pharmaceuticals in the Parkinson's division. And I am located out of Queen Creek, Arizona.
Great, perfect. And I know that Frank is also with Synovian. So maybe you two can piggyback, and Frank, you can say hello. And if there's anything you'd like to mention about Synovian or anything, please do so.
Hey, good morning, Shannon. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us, allowing us to join you. It's great to meet with everyone in the community. And like Nikki, I work with Synovian, and I work with patient advocacy groups, and I'm very passionate about working in this community and absolutely love it. So we're not allowed to go into details on the medication, but we do have a medication that's a sublingual, goes under the tongue, and it is for off time.
Perfect. That's helpful. So that would be Kenobi. Are you allowed to do presentations to groups at this time?
Yeah, so we do have some approved presentations. So if any of the support group leaders has an interest in sharing some of this information with your constituents, definitely reach out to Nikki or myself, and that's something we can talk about setting up in the future, and would love to.
Absolutely.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Glad you could be here today.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, how about we move to Mr. John Keating? You are muted. Yes. There we go.
There we go. Hi, John Keating. I'm with Acadia Pharmaceuticals. I'm here in Scottsdale. I actually cover half the state of Arizona, as well as the majority of New Mexico. So I see a lot of familiar faces. We have a medication, Nuplazid, that's indicated, the first and only medication that's indicated to treat Parkinson's disease psychosis. And just anticipating a couple of questions, we do actually have the ability to present a consumer deck. I have presented to a number of the support groups in the past, and I do understand that when we talk about this topic, it's often the quickest way to the part of the disease that patients can be most uncomfortable with. And my goal is not to make anybody uncomfortable. It's really just to make you informed and to make sure that you understand why it's important, along with a lot of other non-motor symptoms, to make sure you're communicating that to your provider. But feel free to reach out. I know our contact information will be provided. I'm happy to speak with any of you live or exchange emails. But thanks for letting me participate. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, John. Nice to see you. Okay, so I see that Christy, you've gone back off video. Are you? Oh, perfect. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. It
I'm
looks like you're.
great to be here. It's so nice to see, like John had mentioned. No?
Christy, I'm going to stop you for a minute. Your connection doesn't seem to be very good. If you want to turn your video off again, it might help your audio and we can at least hear you.
Is that better
Yes.
at all? You want, okay. Sorry you can't see me. I'll restart it afterwards, but I'll keep it brief. Just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. I know we all wish we could have been in person, but this is the next best thing. The company I work for is Amneal, and we have a product called Rytari, which many of you have probably heard of. It's been on the market for 6 years, and it is approved for every stage of Parkinson's disease. It's a carbidopa-levodopa extended release capsule. So if you have questions, I can answer some basic questions, but we also do have the ability, if anyone's interested, to have one of our key speakers at a support group meeting, and they can go into much more detail. They can answer questions with the medication, pretty much anything you would want to ask about Parkinson's as well. So we do offer that as an opportunity, and I'd be happy to exchange my info if anybody would want to do that in the future. And we can do in person or virtual, whatever anyone is comfortable with.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Christy. And I see somebody is also already saying he's interested to have you speak. So I have your email address, Christy, and I will be providing that to the group after the workshop. Thanks for being here. Let's move to Meg Lambert. Do you happen to be available, Meg, to speak to us?
Let's see.
There she is.
Can you see me? I think
the top of your head. Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
I know several of you because for the last 10 years, I've worked at Barrow Neurological Institute as the DBS nurse. I've done a lot of talks and support groups throughout Arizona and beyond. But I'm happy to report that several weeks ago, I was offered a position with Medtronic, and I have now joined the Medtronic team. My title is the Senior Field Market Development Manager, which basically means my job is going to be going out in the community to help determine, number one, why patients are not being referred for DBS therapy. How can we get the word out to patients and their families about DBS therapy? Because in my opinion, education is key. If you don't know about something thoroughly and have all your questions answered, how are you going to be able to make a decision on whether or not you're going to pursue the therapy? So that's my job in a nutshell. Like I said, it's brand new. It's a brand new position, and we're kind of crafting what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's a very exciting time to be with Medtronic because Joey will go into a little detail about all of the new products that are out now. So basically, Medtronic is a one-stop shop for all your DBS needs. So I'm going to turn it over to Joey, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Meg. Nice to meet you. Joey, are you there? Hi there.
I'm here. Can you see me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, so and congratulations, Meg. Meg is the newest member of the Medtronic DBS team, and we're very excited. We worked with Meg for over a decade now at a clinician industry level, but it's awesome to have Meg a part of the Medtronic DBS team. So thank you. Yeah, and she alluded. So first of all, my name is Joey Gregg, and I'm a part of the Medtronic DBS team in Arizona. I've been a part of our team here for 17 years, and DBS I'm very passionate about the therapy as much today as I was when I started 17 years ago. It's an incredible therapy for the right patient. And Meg alluded to, we just came out with our next generation DBS system. It's our 5th generation system since DBS started in the late 90s. And it's actually called SenseSight. And it basically gives the clinicians the ability to not only directionalize the stimulation in the brain, but to also sense what's going on in the brain. And it's the only DBS system in the world that does that. And it is really the future of the next phase of DBS, which is a really cool part to be involved with, essentially where your own brain is going to be able to tell the stimulation where Parkinson's is and how much stimulation it needs, so that your device will only deliver how much you need and where you need it based on your own brain activity. So it's a very exciting time for DBS right now.
Wow, that is very exciting news. So those are those, yesterday we talked about the new research, new technologies coming out. So even during COVID, we've had a lot of setbacks and a lot of terrible things that have happened, but then some silver linings. So that's a really interesting new development for Medtronic. So thank you, Joey and Meg, for coming today. And I think that I've covered everybody as far as our visiting partners, correct? I think so. Okay, perfect. So Kelly, I saw your message. That sounds good. And Rachel, same thing. I am going to start sharing my screen so that we can move into our breakout session. So I just wanted to make sure that Christy and Meg and Joey, are you able to participate in the breakout sessions? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Great. Good to know. I am going to share my screen and kind of get the partners up to speed on what we're going to talk about. And then we will do our little breakout session. So I am just going to click around my slideshow just to give you some context so you're not completely lost as to what we're talking about. Partners. So this is the multi-dimensional model of health and wellness that we're going to be talking about in our breakout room. So you'll see that there are 6 dimensions of wellness here. So we are going to have actually 5 breakout rooms. And one of the breakout rooms is taking 2 of the dimensions. They're going to be taking emotional and spiritual together. And then the other 4 are going to have 1 dimension. So you will assign you accordingly. But what I would love you to start to think about is start to generate some ideas within your dimension on like what kinds of guest presenters could you have come talk to your group within that dimension? What kind of discussion topics could you bring up regarding that dimension? Or other resources that you could provide or share amongst your group members within that particular dimension. So this is going to be like a brainstorming session. And so I want somebody, whoever's the group leader in your small group, to take notes on that, whatever you come up with as far as ideas for your dimension. We're going to come back to the main group, share with everybody, and then we, as staff, will take notes for you. And then you're going to have some ideas as to how to bring the whole person into account when you're thinking about your meetings, your group meetings, and how to help people in all of these aspects of their lives, instead of just thinking limited, oh, we need to help them with their tremors, their physical symptoms, or only depression. It's like, okay, well, what about all of these parts of their lives? How can we mix things up, make it dynamic, make it rich and diverse as far as the topics you're discussing, things like that. So hopefully that's helpful for you as partners here as we go into these groups, so you're not completely lost. And so we had gone through all 6 of these dimensions. Don't worry about knowing all these things. I think some of it will be intuitive for you. And then this is just quickly want to address as we go into our rooms, 3 important questions to start to think about these dimensions. So how can our support group, your support group, how can you help people live their lives more fully? Thinking of these dimensions. How can you better recognize and address the whole person by focusing on all 6 dimensions of wellness? Can we help our members to affirm and activate their positive qualities and strengths while supporting their ever-changing needs? That's a big question. And then I'd love for us to also think about the interconnectedness. We saw overlap happening between those 6 dimensions. And so sometimes they interplay, but it's the balance, it's the whole. So you want a nice round wheel. You don't want a flat tire and like you've forgotten an entire dimension, or, maybe flat from two different sides. So you want all of them to be balanced and rounded out, and that whole person is represented. So we have done our introductions, and this is going to be our question here. So I have it in the chat, and I will, let's see if I can find that. I've got all my screens. It's always so exciting. So hopefully you've seen it in the chat now. So this is what you're going to be discussing. And we're going to have the 5 groups instead of 6 because we have a smaller number of people. We'll take about, I don't know, between 15 and 20 minutes to chat with your groups. Please do assign a leader, and maybe someone who did not lead yesterday. Can you take that role on today? We need to learn to share the load, right? And then we'll do our share backs in the main room. Does that sound good to everyone? Is that pretty clear? I'm going to stop my share and look at everyone's faces. Are we all good to go? Okay, so I think Kelly, she is my breakout room magician, and she's been doing all of this in the background as I've been blabbing away. So are we good to go, Kelly, with our 3 groups?
We are good to go.
5 groups. I just totally, I don't think I can see. This is what we had to do last time. I think you need to tell them what their dimension is before we go into the room, because I don't think that they can see it necessarily. So that's what we needed to do.
Okay. Yep. So room 1 is occupational, and we have Dave. I know you've got to leave, but that's where you are. Leave as needed. Frank, Harshad, John in Peoria, Lotta, and Nikki. And then in room 2, physical, we have Christy, Perry, and Sheila. Room 3, social, Carolyn, Charlene, and Meg. Room 4, intellectual, Joey, John Goulet, Judy. And then room 5 is spiritual and emotional. You've got the pair, and that is Marilyn, John Keating, Laura, and Miriam.
Thank you. That was perfect. So everyone's going to be automatically zoomed over to their breakout rooms. I will give a halfway notice just to let you know, 8 or 10-ish minutes until we're going to be breaking. I'll give you one more 30-second warning, and then you'll automatically be brought back at the end. Okay? Everyone know what we're doing? The thermometer? Yes? Everything good? Perfect. Okay, so I think you can hit the magic button, Kelly, and everyone have a good time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Here we do.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back. Hopefully you had a nice breakout session. Lots of good discussions. Is
everybody feeling well?
That's what we're after, right? All righty. Good. So we're going to be going group by group, and we'll be taking notes on our end. So hopefully you took notes on your end. You can do a lot of sharing. So we'll start with room number 1 that had Frank and Lotta, John from Peoria, and Nikki. John, I see you have unmuted. So were you the leader?
So we had Dave was on for a little bit, and he shared quite a bit before he had to cut out. So Dave is a physical therapist, and he has Parkinson's, and so for him, he's been able to transfer a lot of those skills he has and connect with people who are struggling, knowing that he's got Parkinson's, and he tells people that he's got something going on. it definitely helps him to connect with these people a lot better and to know and how to target, different therapies for people with Parkinson's, because he does have his own little, a Medicare certified gym at his house. And so he's able to do things that he mentioned, like somebody's left leg isn't doing so well. So they'll do more therapy targeted that way. And so he's able to use and transfer a lot of those, the skills that he's had from work to being able to assist a lot of people. Same thing with Hamlada. She's a physical therapist. And so she's able to help her husband and some of their friends as well, to give them exercises and things to do that'll work. We talked, kind of a little bit about what we all do as well. My involvement with the foundation, the Parkinson's Foundation, and Aware and Care kits, and getting that stuff out there. And then Dave also mentioned about his physical therapy that he does at 5:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday programs for people. And so that's recorded, so anybody who wants to go back and look at that can. And he also did mention to us a food supplement that he's been taking. It's called Atremo Plus. And that's the medication that he's using. He's not on anything else. So, but he's definitely been able to use, and it seems like Hamlada and him transferring those physical therapy skills from their work to helping other people is definitely a lot of what we talked about.
Great. Yes. How amazing that, how better can you know something than to have a condition yourself and then to be able to help other people with that through your work. So, I mean, that is just a whole other level. And I see with what Dave is doing, his early morning classes. So that's something that could potentially be offered to other people in the support group and things like that. I'm wondering if you folks in room number 1, if you have any ideas of like guest speakers you might have been able to bring in, or different discussion topics, like how would you help to get your support group members to be thinking in this way, and how they can spend their energy, their time, their volunteer work to be in alignment with themselves, so kind of taking it maybe one step further.
Yeah, so definitely bringing in, and for me, introducing Dave's stuff to my support group and giving them these resources. So Dave did give us the link, facebook.com/CokePT1, number 1. So that's something that we can share to our groups. And if we can, eventually try to get him to come in and meet with some of these people that we've got. And definitely that, and then medications, and having that, guest speakers come in and talk about, the meds, because we've got a lot of people in my group that are newly diagnosed that have not started meds, but are very interested in learning about, what they're up against and what to expect, and as far as that goes.
Nice. Great.
Thank you. May I add one additional comment? John covered everything so well. It was a really terrific breakout room. Another theme that I kept jotting down too in crossover among the different areas that we're covering in this patient is there was some comments about culture and community, and also the stigma attached to certain cultures. So perhaps from a Synovian standpoint, reaching out to thought leaders in some of these community groups that specifically target certain cultures and speak the language and understand the potential stigma that might be associated with just discussing even the disease state, the very simple discussion of that. So I thought that was another takeaway I took. I'm going to do some thinking on that and try to tie in the culture component as well. It was important.
That's great to think about. Yes, or underserved communities, all sorts of things that can definitely be developed. Thinking how to be more inclusive and get the outreach out there, all of that. Thank you for mentioning that. Great. Okay, let's go to room number 2, please, which was the physical dimension with Christy, Perry, and Sheila. What did your group come up with?
Sheila, did you want to share? We had some great ideas. We could have kept going on forever.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Sorry,
Yes,
Christy.
Yep, we saw you, but it was at a very relaxed pace. So
Your
I know,
audio, yeah.
so I don't know, Perry and I might end up sharing some of the speaker duties here, but I'm just going to talk really fast, and then I'll let him add if I forgot anything. So we all of these categories are huge. So in 15 minutes, I'm like, I just thought of about 16 ideas for the occupational groups of myself. So, okay, so ours, physical, we talked about maybe trying to come up with an idea, and this might have to be something that's collaborative instead of just one support group, but as weather gets better in Arizona, we might be able to do it outdoors. But we were talking about having an exercise fair where representatives of different forms of PD focused exercise groups, such as Rocksteady Boxing, Senior League Baseball, pickleball, pedaling for Parkinson's, all the other PD focused exercise groups could visit and set up little stations, and we have our large attendee group break up into subgroups, and then they get to try out different types of PD focused exercises that they've never tried before. My husband and Jim and I did that up in Seattle a few years ago, and it was a huge success. It was fun, it was engaging, and it got people up out of their seats. You're not just sitting there listening to a talking head for 4 hours straight. And we got to try out exercises that we liked. We got to try out some we thought we would like and we didn't. We got to try out exercises that we thought we would like. Wait, did I? Oh, anyway, the other way around. So that we thought we would hate and we did like them. So anyway, that's one idea. Like I said, it may be too big of an undertaking for one support group to do, but just a thought ahead. We could, like I said, maybe some support groups, we can collaborate on something like that. And then nutrition. I know we've benefited from seeing in person and on video, and I'm kind of a fan of hers, this one lady in particular, Laura Mishley, who's a professor at Bastyr University in the Seattle area. Of course, we used to live in Seattle, so that's my focus, but anyone like her, you know, as long as it's a credible source, and that's something we always have to kind of send up a precautionary note about when you get information on YouTube or on the internet. And there's a lot of kind of wackadoodle stuff out there too about nutrition. So you have to be careful and make sure that it's well researched. And anyway, but if you have information from a credible source like that, we could possibly watch it on video together and do a discussion group afterwards. And what I was mentioning in our subgroup is, again, one of my own sort of narrow focuses that I have a master's in adult ed, and I was an adult ed teacher for many years. So I always am a strong believer in experiential learning whenever possible. And I always try to, in the back of my mind, every time I hear about a presentation, I try to think, okay, how can we do something hands-on? It's not always possible, but with nutrition, and I think PMDA did this a couple of years ago at one of the workshops we attended in Tucson, where the speaker actually, you know, we had nutritious food at the event and they were able to talk about it, and we could eat it and touch it and smell it. It was a very tactile situation, and that's the way that adult learners in particular synthesize the information, and you remember it, you know, right, when you're having fun and all that. And then I thought of a couple other just quickie things. There's a piece under physical that talks about negative interactions of tobacco and even legitimate medications. And we need to have, again, sort of a credible presenter. So probably a physician, someone who, or an MDS, someone, or even a nurse practitioner, or someone in the nursing community who knows about negative interactions. Because I think that's an underexplored topic that maybe, I know we could certainly learn more about. And it's always evolving, because Parkinson's research is always evolving. So that, and also maybe a little kind of sub discussion about protein education, because we didn't learn about that until after several years of GEMS medications not being effective. And we cover it from time to time, but I'd like to see a presentation on that. And again, some way to make it sort of interactive. Anyway, and then Perry, I'm going to let you talk about more about all of the exercise experience you have and how that fits in too, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed in 2010. I retired from the sitting in 2012. And after being hidden away from a little bit, I decided to just start exercising. And that's been, if I had to tie my wagon to something for the last 10 years, it'd be exercise. That It's given me a positive outlook. It's let me know I can do things that I didn't know I could. I started playing with big rocks. It kind of it allowed me to do so many things, and it also just overturned my whole outlook on life. From negative thinking takes too much energy, and try to think of ways to where I don't have to do anything, to just getting up and doing it is a big thing. And then we were talking about that, and then all of a sudden Sheila just exploded with all these great ideas. We've got an Inspire Me fair for creativity. Why not have a fair for, like she said, little stations to where someone can play pickleball, and it's very addictive. It's like ping pong on a stage. It's a lot of fun. I rock steady boxing. I've been in senior league softball. I played pickleball, and a lot of it's just the more you can do. There's no other pill that'll match it. So, and once get that going, it helps the spirit just rises, and then it's easier to do a whole lot of this other stuff. So.
Absolutely. And maybe with all that physical activity and all the, introducing new activities to others, how can you help support other people in that endeavor? Like maybe you can have accountability buddies or a walking group, a subgroup.
It's all to start. It's all to light a fire. Something like this is to say, someone saying, look at something and saying, man, I'd like to try that. And if they like it and they start it, then success, so. Perfect.
Wonderful ideas. Thank you both. And yes, Christy as well. And I just wanted to piggyback on to something Sheila said about drug interactions, that I've heard of pharmacists being invited to support groups because sometimes there might be someone really attuned, to Parkinson's and who knows their stuff and really involved in the community as well. So another idea on that. And then Joey has a comment about tobacco use in PD. Very interesting. Yes. Lots of research yet to be done. Okay, let's move to the third room, which looked at the social dimension, and that was Carolyn, Charlene, and Meg.
Okay, I'll talk about that. The first thing we did was talk about the barriers, the things that prevent us from being social. So there's the masking, the speaking, the swallowing problems, because a lot of social events they have food. And considering those three things, we thought a good speaker would be a speech pathologist, because a speech pathologist could address all three of those. Also, something that our support group connected with last year is AZ TAP, which is a federal program here in Arizona. It's called AZ TAP, but I imagine it's in all states under a different name. What they do is they have a great selection of devices that can be used. For instance, utensils for eating with somebody with a tremor. And they will send a speaker anywhere in the state, and they'll bring devices to demonstrate. Or during the pandemic, they'll do it by Zoom. So that's a good resource, I think, for social. We also talked about what kind of events we can do to be more social. We could have a movie night, a book club, bingo, do Tai Chi together, a painting group, because when you're painting, you're in a group with other people in the room, but you're not forced to talk. You can just appreciate being with other people. And we thought it's important to include partners or a support person with these events. So I don't know, maybe the others have more to add to that.
Those are great ideas, Charlene. Anything from Meg or Carolyn?
No, I think Charlene captured all of our thoughts. That there
Yeah,
are very simple things you can do as a group to engage others, not just sitting there listening to a speech, just interacting and having a little fun.
absolutely. And I love that concept of being with people, but not being forced to talk. Just enjoying each other's company. That's really lovely. And there was a thought. Oh yeah, you mentioned the program where someone comes out and shows you devices, and you mentioned the utensils. So I know sometimes the optics, is people are embarrassed perhaps if they have a movement disorder, Parkinson's, and they go out in public, and then maybe they can't use, their hands as well during a meal. And so they're like, maybe more reluctant to go to a restaurant. And so if you give them tools to mediate some of these problems and then feel more comfortable in public and going out and then not isolating themselves, and any way to encourage being out in the world and interacting, I love that. Really, really great. I see Carolyn's hand.
Yeah, Charlene did a great job in telling what our group had talked about. And she also said within our group that her group actually goes out together. And so being able to kind of support each other. So they'll call the restaurant and actually set this up and say, hey, this is how many people coming. Explain a little bit about they may need a little extra support or extra staff for the group. But I think that's a wonderful idea because if you are kind of that messy eater because of the difficulties, the shakiness or whatever, then, and you're all doing it together, it's not as awkward, I would imagine. And so I thought that was a wonderful idea that Charlene presented.
That is great. Those extra little preparation steps that will just ease and calm people and know that they're well taken care of. It's worthwhile, isn't it? So great. Thank you all. Let's move to room number 4, please.
John was raising his hand for a moment. Do you have one last thing to add?
So I just wanted to mention with the eating thing, later on, before we are done, there is this thing called liftware that I would like to show you guys. It is, it's a fork and spoon utensil that you can shake, and the fork and spoon stay level. And so it works really well when somebody wants to go out and eat soup or peas, they can still have a normal dinner and not throw their food all over their plate. So later on, I will get you guys that information before we are out of here.
Thank you.
Cool,
I love
thanks.
show and tell. Excellent. And then Charlene, did I see your hand?
Yeah, somebody in our support group mentioned that, and apparently the VA is providing that for them. So if you are a veteran, ask. You might be able to get it.
Wow. Good tip. Thanks, Charlene. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Let's move to room number 4, the intellectual room, the smarty pantses. Let's go to Joey, John, and Judy.
Yeah, so we were the intellectuals in the group. So I took the notes, but Judy and John will chime in whenever they feel like they need to. So a couple of the bullet points that we kind of put together before we get into specifics was definitely plan topics in advance, well in advance, maybe even plan out 6 months or more worth of meetings in advance. Try and align speakers to come in, specialists in those topic areas. But if you can't get a speaker or a specialist in that area, don't cancel that topic just because of it, because the topic should essentially be developed from a consensus of the group, right? This is what the group wants to hear about. So we encourage definitely to have the people with Parkinson's to have their family and spouses to be a part of the group as well. And that kind of leads us into the second part of it. Judy brought this up, is if we don't have a speaker and we assign the group a topic and have everybody go out and research that topic for the following month, What Judy had discovered was that there's always 2 or 3 people that do a ton of research, and then the rest of the group knows that those folks are going to do the research, so they let them do it, and they don't do it on their own. So we felt like if you did include your family or your caregiver / spouse, a lot of times that'll help motivate the person with Parkinson's to get involved and do some of the research on their own. And bring all of that information together for a discussion, and so forth. And then some of the topics that were that we all thought there was a lot of interest in was vertigo and balance seemed to be a big one. Voice, nutrition, smell and taste changes with PD. So those were some of the more kind of higher level topics that we talked about. Judy, did you have anything you wanted to piggyback?
Well, on the nutrition side was the digestive issues that seem to be prevalent with people with Parkinson's. They're not all the same issues, but every one of us, I think, has some kind of a digestion problem, digestive tract problem, if you will. I'd like to find out more about that, and if there's any research on that, and if so, what kind.
Okay.
Good point. John, I see you have unmuted.
Yes. One of the things that I've experienced in previous support groups is to try to get interest in topics that we're going to discuss would be to just to kind of ping the group and say, well, what are your biggest concerns? And as a group decide that, okay, well, swallowing is an issue, or there's a lot of people having questions about vision problems or digestion or whatever. And then try to use that as a point to bring somebody in that can discuss that. For instance, we've had an ophthalmologist come in that specializes in Parkinson's and to discuss various vision problems. Physical therapists come in or speech therapists, but it was based on what the group felt was the most pressing need as a group. We found that to be helpful.
Absolutely. Yes. Great point there. And I wonder if we as support group leaders could potentially use that model, that shield, the 6-sided, 6 dimensions, that model, share that with the support group members, and then have that be a place to begin brainstorming for them. So you are crowdsourcing what do they want to know? What do they want to hear about? If you're thinking about, okay, for the next year, what would you like to talk about? But then kind of keeping in mind all those different aspects of the human, and then maybe you'll get more varied answers instead of the ones that maybe always get brought up. So I love that idea of incorporating your group and having them have a say in what they're learning about throughout the year. That's great. Did I miss something in the chat here? If you can't find a speaker, Charlene says you can probably find a video on it. So we have hundreds of videos at this point, every topic under the sun, and many other things online, I'm sure, different organizations and such. So great idea. You could also, if you're on Zoom and doing your meetings this way virtually, you could potentially just send a link ahead of time, have them watch it on their own, and then use the group meeting time to have discussion instead of trying to get all technological and share your video and then that doesn't work well, all that. Just let them do it on their own ahead of time. And so you're kind of avoiding that frustration of the lag time and such. Let's see, Charlene, I see a hand and
I don't know why I have a sad face up there.
I know, I was like, oh no, what just happened?
That was an accident. There was a time we wanted a speaker on driving, and at what point did you give up driving? And we didn't know who to have, so we contacted the Alliance, and they contacted a doctor in California that would talk on the subject and let us asked questions that we wanted answered, and it was pre-recorded, but then we were able to play it to the group, and it worked out well.
Wow, that's great. I hadn't heard about that. Yes, driving and Parkinson's, it's a huge one. And
That's a good one.
yeah, oof, that is a touchy subject there. And so a lot of times you want to have outside, medical perspectives. And so the bad guy doesn't have to be the care partner, that sort of thing. And so that's really good point there, Charlene.
Shannon, something I'll bring up is one time, maybe like a year ago, we had a nutritionist come and speak to our group, and there was so much additional follow-up that was generated from that discussion that we had to schedule her like 2 or 3 months later to come back, just because there was so much that came out of it. So I know that happens as well.
Yeah, and that's so great when people are willing to give their time like that. Yes, super thankful for our resources and our friends in the community. So thank you to room number 4. Great job. Let's move on to room number 5. And of course, Perry likes to throw in his jokes. If you don't like the way he drives, stay off the sidewalks, please. So spiritual and emotional dimension was John, Laura, and Miriam.
Yes, and I volunteered to be the scribe. So please, Laura, Miriam, Doc, don't hesitate to jump in if I miss something. But so we were discussing spiritual and emotional, and the consensus of the group, and I think most on the call, would be that this is probably the most difficult. Laura talked about it or described it. The subject is not as tangible. Because it's feelings based and not medical based. And obviously, this disease finds everybody where they are at different points in their life. Caregiving support looks different, and that's going to influence, that certainly everybody is impacted differently. But when we talk about what we were kind of tasked with coming up with, in terms of discussion topics, we came up with 3, and obviously the list could certainly be added to, but the first being along the lines of spiritual, talking about what gives, and this was Miriam who suggested a topic of, what gives you motivation to continue. So, motivation to meet the next day. You could come up with a number of different titles on that, but the idea is that every day when you wake up, you're going to have a plan. And one word that a lot of Parkinson's patients don't have is the word predictable in their vocabulary, or it's not there in the way it was before. And so what does that look like? What's your motivation to continue? And understanding that when we talk about spiritual, it's not always in the context of church or religion. And again, that can look differently depending on, who it is that we're talking with or what their experience is. The second topic would be coping strategies, and specifically a talk around coping strategies. I know the cancer community has long had, and I know because my mom facilitated a support group for more than 20 years as a cancer survivor, but they've long had a support group entitled I Can Cope, which itself is an empowering statement when you think about it. But when you talk about coping strategies, and again, Miriam was suggesting, talking about and leveraging what has helped you in the past. And that's really going to be something that taps into patients at different points in the disease, and the benefit of their experience in fighting kind of through and past some of these real challenges. And not because they've absolutely conquered them, but I think sometimes it's, it really is taking advantage of what has worked for others and adapting that to your own personal, battle with this disease. The third topic being anxiety, or what does it mean to manage anxiety? PMD Alliance has had some programs that has tapped into this in the past, but it's the idea that coping strategies is a lot of times, or is very often, about implementing a plan or tweaks to the plan. Anxiety, and where that finds people in this disease, is sometimes just coming up with a plan. And the idea, especially for patients who are newer and more newly diagnosed, just the sheer weight of this and the anxiety that accompanies that can have people just unsure of what direction. Sometimes just waking up and understanding or having an idea, do I go north, south, east, or west, and what's it going to look like? So anxiety, and then looking at concrete steps and specific strategies. So those are the topics. The types of presenters, really two schools of thought. We talked about the fact that, well, obviously mental health providers and those with experience seeing patients, I think, are one obvious group of presenters. And sometimes that almost looks better in a virtual format because you're able to tie into or tap into individuals, that aren't necessarily living here in the same town, but might be on the other side of the country who may be able to help. But sometimes just as valuable are the people within your support group or your community living with Parkinson's, who are in their own unique ways just as qualified to speak to this topic because of their own experience. And that oftentimes that carries as much, if not more, weight. And then lastly, talking about other resources to explore, Joey kind of alluded to this as well, but sometimes it's what's not being voiced. You have those 2 or 3 people a lot of times that are drivers, not just in terms of ideas, but content. But is a survey a good idea to put out to the support group? And maybe you do that on an annual basis, but when you do it around meeting planning and an idea of, well, what have we either covered in the past that you'd like to see covered? Just because, again, new ideas, new content can be helpful there. So what can we cover again? What isn't being covered or hasn't been covered that's worth adding to our meeting planning? And again, what would that look like? So Miriam, Laura, Doc, if I left anything out there, please feel free to chime in at that point. So
you'll just need
Laura,
to unmute yourself, Laura. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I guess to add to John's comments, Miriam had brought up a very good point that spiritual can be something to different people. It doesn't necessarily mean a 4-walled church, if you will. It can be in a forest. It can be in your own home. And I think we have to recognize that spiritual can mean different things to different people. And that's where it's kind of exciting to, again, get people's input to say, what does spiritual mean to them? Again, without getting into a religious or political conversation, it's really something that I think we can encourage sharing and really learning how other people cope with their own concerns and how they do it, and maybe learn from them.
I think that's a great point, Laura. I love that. And just being able to share what these words mean to them. What does spirituality mean to you? And then again, I think it's kind of going back to something Perry said about providing that spark, maybe just talking about that amongst the group, and then realizing that for someone sitting in their backyard and watching the birds is spirituality to them. And then it's just like, oh yeah, reminding people that they can connect in a different way to nature, to a larger, so whatever it is, source, whatever it is. And just that it doesn't have to be complex, and it doesn't have to mean, going to a 4-walled establishment. It can be everyday small things that add up and provide a lot of depth in someone's life. Meditation practice, breathing techniques, whatever those things are to help us cope, like the coping strategies John was talking about. That can be many different things, and things that certain folks haven't heard of before. And you can bring in either experts in that or just someone from the group who has experience and share and provide so much, or many possibly tools, so many tools that people can look into. And that's what we're trying to do. Gratitude practices. Yes, Carolyn. These simple things that can pepper in to people's lives and really make a difference. So the more we talk about it and the more we emphasize it and remind people, it'll make a difference. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you to John into room number 5 there. We've gone over, which is totally fine. So thank you for those who've been able to stay, our partners. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate your input and for just working through these ideas and helping us generate a lot of information for our groups moving forward. So we appreciate you all coming. And like I said before, I will be providing email addresses, contact info for our support group leaders to get in touch with you so you can coordinate future presentations. Okay, anything else before we close out this part of our workshop today? Move on to what's next. All righty. Okay, well, thank you so much to our partners. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a lovely weekend. And
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see
See ya.
you.
See you soon.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Nice to see you, Frank.
Great to see you, Shannon, everybody.
All right, here we are, 12:18 or 12:18, no, 11:18 for you. How about we take a little break? Does that sound good? We take maybe 5 minutes. I was thinking 5 minutes, bio break, do what you need to do, come back. We can move just a little bit so that we're not stiff. I know I'm feeling stiff. Move a little bit and then round out the rest of our day. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, so let's see. Let's do 11:23. We'll be back. 11:23, go. Again. Do you all hear that little announcement? Recording in progress? Yeah, you do. Okay. I didn't know if it was a host thing or not. Okay, so I would love some participation here, except for you, Dave. I would love you to just drive your car. So this, we'll do a little bit of movement, and this is something that I did a couple of weeks ago with our Northern California support group leaders. It was very timely because the Olympics were going on at that time, but I think we might still have some Olympic spirit in our bodies, I hope. And I would like to also just offer this as something that you could very easily do with your groups. And you don't really have to have a teaching background, movement teaching or dance background, anything like that. It's really more about imagination. So like yesterday we did some nature movements. Today, what I'd love to do is explore some of our favorite Olympic events. Okay, and so what I'd love you to do is right now in the chat, if you could type to me some Olympic events that you enjoy watching, or maybe you used to do these particular events, sports when you were, different stages of your life, just things that resonate with you. And then we're going to go on an Olympic Games journey together. So it's just going to be input from you as far as the different kinds of events, and then I will just lead and be silly and go for it and make as gymnastics. We're going to be flipping in our chairs, all sorts of things. So skating, okay. So keep the diving, keep these Olympic events coming in here. Shot put, love it. Track and field, okay. Balance beam, all right. So I've got some inspiration to go from. Swimming, that's a good one. That's a nice warm up actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw some music on, right? Some fun, activating music, and then we're just going to emulate these events one after the other. I'll just use these as inspiration, call it out, and we're going to go for it. So it doesn't take any particular, background. It's just, having imagination. So if you can, in your space right now, scoot yourself away from your desk, from your computer, so you can move your arms, move your legs, and get a little bit more active. And we are gonna have a little bit of fun together. Ballroom dancing. Oh, Paralympics are going on this week. Fantastic. That's exciting. Oh my gosh, talk about inspirational. Oh my gosh, what these people do. Okay. Tell me if you can hear. Yep. You hear that rhythm? I'm going to scoop my chair back a little bit. All right, so if we're an athlete, we got to warm up a little bit. So I'd like you to pull your bottom forward in the chair, plant your feet in the ground, widen the base, the foundation, hands on your thighs, just like this. Let's take a deep breath and arch our back. Arch in and exhale out, curve your spine. Inhale, arch, and exhale, curve your spine. Taking one hand, bringing it over to your opposite ear. Take a gentle stretch. And up, release that hand. Other side, arm up and over the head to the opposite ear. Gentle stretch in the spine. Good. All right, now get these arms going. So we're gonna take a little jog around the track. Find that beat. Good. Now add your feet. Go for a jog with your legs. Good. Can you take this jog and then go over the hurdles? Take a jump over one hurdle. Now with the other leg. Other side, hurdle. Good. And 2 in a row. 1 and 2. Oh, nice. All right. We must be triathletes. We're going to get into the pool. Can we take a big dive into the pool? Good. Let's go for a swim. Regular freestyle. Good job. Really accentuating the kinesthetic bubble. You're really trying to reach all the edges of your bubble. Nice job. Now reverse it. We're going to do backstroke. Backstroke. Good. All right. Let's do butterfly. Whoa. Good. Let's incorporate our lower body. I'm going to hold on to my chair. Do a little kick. Making sure we see our feet because that helps us get speed. Good. Faster, faster, faster. Nice job. Okay, back to track and field. Take that heavy shot put ball. Put it right in that hand. Feel the weight of that ball. And change sides. Feel that weight in the other side. Now back and forth. Woo. And shoot. Good. All right, taking that shot put, putting it all the way up to our shoulder. You ready to launch it? Here you go. Shoo. Good. Find another shot put it in your other hand. Take it up to your shoulder. And now launch it. Go. Good job. All right, let's do some balance beam. Holding onto your chair. We're going to take one foot in front of the other and walking along our balance beam. Good. And reverse it. Can you go backwards? That's a little harder. Nice. Now both feet on the beam, on the floor. You're going to jump off the beam and big finish. And good. Nice. All right. I think our music is going to be ending, but ping pong, I like that one. So let's make believe we're going to ping pong. This is going to be our last one. From side to side. Good. Now, can you take your imaginary ping pong paddle in front of you and bounce your little ping pong ball and take it to the side? Try not to lose that ball anywhere. And now take it across the body and back to the center. We need to be ambidextrous if we're Olympic athletes. Take that same paddle, put it in your other hand, your imaginary ball, start the bounce, and take that bounce out to the side. Don't lose it. And back in front of you, and now cross the body. That's really hard. And back to the center, and then pop it, shoot. And then taking a deep breath in. And as we finish our exercise, hands float down to our laps like we started. And relax. All right. Good job. So, hopefully, that shows you that all it takes is just a little bit of imagination. You know, you don't have to be a pro at anything to lead a little bit of movement. And you can even popcorn to somebody else on your Zoom screen or in the room and say, okay, what's your favorite sport? Lead us through it. And then you just mimic and then have fun and riff on it. I would love to hear if that's something you felt comfortable with your group, or if you would need a little bit more input as far as how to lead something like that. Make sure that we go back to our gallery view if you want to go from speaker to gallery. So you take your mouse, go to the right top side of your screen, look for view, and then look for gallery. All right. How did that go? I couldn't see many of you. Yeah, did it go okay? Does anyone want to comment on whether that's something that they feel like they could maybe lead? Does it still seem kind of tricky or overwhelming?
It was fun, but the balance beam stuff is really tells me I need to do more work on my abs.
Lifting your legs up off. Yes, absolutely. It helps to lean back in your chair on that for sure. Yes. And so one thing that I didn't say, and that's something that I should have, and it's important to note, is that everyone can interpret these movements in any way that they would like. They could do a balance beam right on the floor, you know, and so they don't feel like they have to make the same shapes that you are, that they are interpreting them in their own ways. And so that's something that I neglected to say just now. Very important to remember. Anybody else have feedback about that? About leading something like that in a group?
Shannon, this is Laura.
Yes. Yes.
I guess you did a wonderful job. Is it something that you and or PMD Alliance would consider recording the session so that we could use it in our support groups?
Aha. So there are lots of videos online.
Yes.
People have asked me about that, like whether I would be, because I used to teach classes all the time, and it's not something I've done. There might be one or two videos out there recorded that that just happened to be, saved and put onto our website. I think it was Rachel. I know you're not there. Rachel's having her AC fixed. She's in like 110-degree temperatures, and her AC is on the fritz, so she had to come in and out. But anyway. So I can think about that, Laura, and think about options for utilizing YouTube videos.
Yeah, if you could, because I definitely have used it in my homes. And of course, families I know have used it in their own personal situation, especially in the lockdown environment. But I think if we could have a good variety for our support groups to utilize what you've just done, I think it'll just get some, different insight.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, I was trained by Dance for PD, David Leventhal at Martin Morris, and they have several free classes that are live per week. And they do have DVDs, and maybe even a digital library that you can access. And those are recordings, you know, that you could use at any time. You don't, it
And that's
doesn't have to be.
and that stands for PD.
Mhm. And they also have singing, they have vocal
Yeah.
things. So think about all of those as well. And then like Big and Loud, they have free videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Shannon, you can, part of the email communication, include that for all of us as support leaders, to have that as our, kind of at our fingertips, to integrate some of that at our sessions.
Absolutely. Okay. I just wrote a note. Perfect. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for playing. I always feel better after moving, especially sitting so long. So we're getting there. I think Rachel is still working, and no problem, Rachel. We got this. So I am going to share my screen again, and we just have a few more slides that we like to share with you the last 20 minutes or so of our workshop. So we touched on these already a little bit during our share backs. Hopefully you can see this. So let's talk about how you can employ that wellness model that we just brainstormed. And so we've talked about surveying our group members, yes? So it could be either an email, or it can be a literal survey that they take, or it could just be a meeting where you have a brainstorming session. So what do they want to cover during the next year in each of those 6 dimensions? And so you could survey them in a variety of ways. And as far as how you could choose to cover the 6 dimensions, there are different ways, and it kind of depends on how many times a month you meet with your people. Sometimes you might only be meeting with them once a month, or if you've gone into a routine on Zoom or whatever, and you might be meeting with them every week, you have a lot more chances, opportunities to cover a lot of this stuff. So it just really depends. And so sometimes you might be going down to 2 times a month, but you could do monthly deep dives. So you could choose occupational dimension for October, and then you could dig deeply into that and have a number of meetings, 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings on occupational. In particular, you would highlight the relevant speakers, the discussion topics, activities, videos, suggested articles. And so you could do 1 per month. That's an idea. And then start all over again after 6 months. So in a year, you would cover each dimension twice. And then another option could be each meeting, depending on how many times you meet. Again, you could just focus on a new dimension, right? So you're just intentionally hitting on the different dimensions, covering all 6 over time. So it could be a little bit more open, flexible in that way. So you're not necessarily deep diving, but just keeping in mind as that group leader or co-leader that you are keeping in mind that entire wheel. You want that person, that these people to be balanced and have input and support in all these different areas. Okay, anything? I see your back, Rachel. Anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that during this exercise, when we were all discussing, I hope everybody was sort of kind of thinking about how interconnected all of those dimensions are, like Shannon said at the beginning. And so, one leads into the other, and we can kind of make the topics be one thing, but really cover other dimensions. So I think it's important just to realize how interconnected all of that stuff is. And that's all I wanted to share.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I am going to move forward. Rachel, did you want to cover these, or should I go ahead and just continue this?
You can continue. I'm so sorry. The AC guy is still here.
No
so just
problem.
in case I have to step away, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I get it. So this slide here is referencing what I had you print out. So the PDFs, or the PDF that I included a bunch of different things. So these are wonderful resources that the National Wellness Institute has put together, and they are wonderful in themselves. So I'm like, here it is. Like, you can do these for yourselves as support group leaders. You could potentially offer these as resources for your group members, and then that could potentially inspire conversations about what they want to cover over the year as far as the group meetings are concerned. So there are 3 different tools in that packet that you have. It's the 6 dimensions fact sheet, which breaks down those 6 dimensions into categories and just explains them a little bit more for understanding. There's a survey tool to help people figure out where in their lives they're missing certain aspects, and it's like a reminder, like, oh yeah, I need to really look at that. And then, or maybe I'm confusing, the wholeness reflection exercise, I think, is that one. And then the survey tool is a longer survey where you can have space to kind of brainstorm ways in which you want to improve your own balance in your own life. So I encourage you to look at those and utilize them and share them with your people. So other than that, we're not going to spend time doing that today. Just want to let you know it's there for you, and I think it would be helpful potentially. Okay, so I am going to move on to this last little kind of mini module, and it's referring to the importance of play for us as adults. And I think, support group leaders I've talked to in the past, they've been worried about keeping people coming back. Like, what makes people want to engage and keep coming back to meetings, and how can we get them moving? How can we get them using their voices? We want experiential, which Sheila was really talking about, the adult learners, that's who we're talking about right now. We need to do. We don't need to just sit and listen and boring, So there have been so many studies done on why play is important. It helps us to remember and experiencing things, different parts of our brains are lighting up, and it's going to stick more. So it's also, so here, improving how your brain works. We can also really start relationships, maintain relationships, strengthen relationships through play. The trust that has to go back and forth sometimes with some of these activities. You have to kind of be vulnerable to be playful. And what does that do? I mean, you have to have enough trust to go there, but then once you do, and then it's a fun and joyful experience, it just takes it to another level. And so you can continue building on that over time. It improves your mental and emotional well-being. I think that's pretty much obvious. It's, speaks for itself. Extending your life and improving your physical vitality as well. So especially the more physical activities, being outside. Love that idea of the stations, having the exercise fair, trying things out. And then if maybe a group would gravitate more toward one of those exercises, spend an entire meeting doing one of them, or a part of that meeting, if you can meet outside and it's not 110 degrees. So we have to think about that in Arizona. But I just want to underscore here that enjoyable experiential activities are what is going to make the difference for folks in wanting to stick around and engage with one another. And then here are some ideas. So lots of things, and this slide was created when we were starting to go back in person, but luckily a lot of these can be translated. to online experiences. So playing music as people enter an in-person meeting, that can kind of create a vibe. It's like going to a dinner party. It's like if there's, you know, that underscore, that, I don't know, just that energy that's moving around. I think that's really wonderful. Not as applicable to Zoom because it's just a little chaotic and crazy to try to do music playing as people enter the room. It has been done, but just keep this in your back pocket for future icebreakers. So all of you will be receiving, so Rachel has them in her hand. We have new meeting maker cards, 12 of them in a set that will be mailed to you hard copy following this workshop. And so each of these meeting makers has an icebreaker question or topic, a main topic, and then a closing. And so that in itself could be an entire meeting. So we've got 12 of them. And we just created them. They should be very applicable for where we are in the state of the world. And so I think they're really nice and really great for helping to get to know each other as humans. And you're not just the disease, as Perry said. You know, we're human beings with all sorts of dimensions to us. So those meeting makers you can utilize. I love this. And I have my own kind of support group, movement group that I belong to online. We do awesome affirmations. So we use that popcorn style, but I might say, Carolyn, you know, I love how, you know, you have shared with us what you've worked, how you've worked with your clients, and you're so interested in getting to know them as humans and who they are and what their goals are. And I just, that is so inspiring to me. So I would just give her a compliment and she gets to sit there and absorb that. And then she will then popcorn over to someone else and give them an awesome affirmation. And so it's just a nice way for people to feel seen, to feel heard, a simple way. You know, if you have a huge group, it may not be the best thing because it might take too long, but you just have to kind of utilize it as it's appropriate. Another thing that we could do is a win of the week or the month, depending on how long you're in between your meetings. But what's something that was great in your life this week? And it could be just a sentence, you know, oh, you know, I did all my laundry and I folded it and it's away in the drawers. Like, wow, that's my win of the week, you know. So whatever that might be, it could be big or small. And then weather report is a nice little icebreaker. It's not the weather outside, it's your internal weather. So, oh, I'm feeling a little stormy today, you know, got some clouds looming, that sort of thing. And so you can get an emotional kind of take of the room, if you will, and then know where to go from there without getting too into depth into specific stories. If you get their weather report, internal weather report. Resident joke teller. So for us, that would be Perry. So if you have someone who's a plant and they're going to be the ones who are like keeping it light and might you know, say a joke verbally or in the chat and keep things light, or it might be his thing at the end of every meeting to have a joke ready to go and everyone can leave on a high note. That's really, really fun to do something like that. So more physical activity, as we've been talking about, other activities, the I Am Poem project. So if you haven't heard, Monday morning, 9 a.m., we've got an explanation of what we're doing with this I Am Poem project. Improv. I don't know if Kelly, you or Rachel from yesterday, Robert Cochran's, I think it's Yes and Exercise, something like that. If you might be able to, Yaks, if you might be able to look that up. He's
Yes,
doing
I
a
have
study.
the link. I'll put it up in the chat.
It was really fun yesterday. So he's currently taking people on in this improv group online. It's a study, research study for Parkinson's. Anyway, I highly recommend it. And these things can be done online. And then outside of regular meeting times, happy hours, get-togethers, casual, social. We've talked so much about how important the casual interactions are. Information's great, but you know, the social part almost outweighs it sometimes. So just keep that in mind and don't always focus on the information. Just provide people a safe space. And how could that work online? Breakout rooms. Put people in pairs, put people in a group of 3, have them share for 20 minutes. And I don't know if you experience not having enough time the last couple of days, 15, 20 minutes still sometimes doesn't feel like a very long time. So people love just to talk. And always remember that. And then hobby-oriented small groups is another easy thing that you can do. Pickleball group, whatever it is. Bless you, Sheila. Gesundheit. So hopefully these are some good ideas for you as we move forward. I am just going to check my chat. I see, oh yes, get outs, the pizza party. So hopefully, well, who knows when that's going to happen. But you could do those on your own. You could do, everybody bring your own snack and your own lawn chair, go to the park. Just get out there, do it as safely as possible, but try to just get out there and encourage your people. Rachel put the yes and exercise link in the chat, which is the improv. This guy is amazing. He had I loved his energy yesterday. So fun. And he's leading these awesome.
I really liked, in terms of play, just as an example of something he did yesterday, was we bounced back and forth. 2 people would go and they would say, what's not wrong with you? And it was like a positive spin on what's good in your life, and what's going well. And it gets people to think, what's not wrong with me? Well, I woke up today. I was able to take a shower. I'm clean. The little things, it's sort of just thinking about things in a more positive way, and also getting to know people. I think it's a sort of a icebreaker at the same time. So another good activity to do to incorporate play.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. I know that was really fun to watch. Okay, anything to add about play before we move on to our closing today? I know sitting for 3 hours doesn't feel like play. Yes, I wish we were in person. We could be more fun. All right, so
John, did you unmute John to say something?
No, I was just going to say that I really identify with a lot of these activities. As an 80-year-old, it seems like it's like going back to your childhood. You may be a little bit embarrassed to get involved, but I really do benefit from it once we're involved, whether it's drumming or whether it's tossing a balloon around a circle, whatever the activity is. It gets people talking for one thing, gets their minds off of what other issues that they're having. Their minds are on getting that balloon over to the other person, or whatever the challenge is. And they really are uplifting things to do. And like I say, it seems a little strange at this age that we would revert back to the things we did as kids, but it really does have a benefit. I swear by it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John. Yeah, and I think that that's just a really important thing to remind ourselves, in that it's not a great thing about our society how we've been taught to shut down our playfulness, and just to fit in or be normal or whatever those constructs are for you. We've been told it's not appropriate to behave in these ways, and I say I don't go for that. I could be a lot more harsh with my words, but I won't. I think we have to live our lives and have as much fun as possible. We only maybe have one. And so let's be silly, let's be fun, let's act dumb, let's just let it out.
What's the old saying? Act your age and not your shoe size. Well, sometimes act your shoe size and not your age. Let's have some fun with it.
I love that. I love that. Yes, and that's what keeps you young. That's what keeps you young at heart, young in body. Thank you for that, John. And then I saw maybe a couple of other people wanted to say something. Was it Sheila? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, just briefly, and just, you know, pretty much as always I do, I steal ideas from everybody else that's been talking before me. Because we all have such a wealth of ideas. And I noticed that the last thing on this list that says hobby-oriented small groups, that really rings a bell with me sometimes, because as much as I think our support groups and all of our PMDA and other organizational presentations are fabulous and wonderful and educational and focused, and we need that and appreciate that so much. But, you know, sort of a running theme throughout all of the wellness is for PD and MDS people with those chronic diseases is that, you know, as Perry said earlier, and everybody I think agrees, it doesn't define us. And we, one of the things that I know I and some of my peers have really been sort of talking about, especially if something happens like your speaker cancels or whatnot, I think sometimes focusing on something that almost, I want to say almost doesn't mention PD so much is not like a nice break, you know, and also like provides bonding for people as is listed in there. And so I know for us, sometimes when we just talked about fun things that we've done and maybe a little bit of MDS or PD was mentioned in there, like how we could manage the symptoms to continue our travel opportunities or even exercise or you know, playing golf or ping pong or whatever, or hobbies like painting and I mean everything, art, playing a musical instrument, all of these hobbies that sometimes are more difficult than they used to be, but and certainly there's an opportunity there for sharing tips and strategies about how to do it by, you know, through managing your symptoms in one strategy or another. But I really love the idea of being able to sort of have people bond and share their experiences about something that almost doesn't really have a major focus on PD, because that goes toward us like not defining ourselves entirely by that.
Exactly. Yes. So that balance of getting the information and education that will be helpful, but then not just that's everything. That's not your entire world. It's just a small part of you that you can manage and learn to cope with and all of these things. Perfectly said, Sheila. Thank you so much for that. I would love to close with asking you all, what would be your number one takeaway from yesterday and today? What's your takeaway from this workshop? Something you've learned, one little tip that you're like, oh, I got to keep that. I got to hold on to that, use it. And let's put that in the chat. I would love to do a popcorn, but we are running out of time, amazingly, after 3 hours. Something that you want to incorporate, something, maybe a new idea that you never thought about before. All right. A lot of hidden talents, but I can't find them. Okay, inspiration. Start a group, ask for topics. Joy.
Bringing pharma reps.
Yep.
They're here for us.
They are. Positive energy, love that. What's above the line?
Above the line.
Creativity and planning future activities. Yes, Sheila mentioned creativity. And yes, they can be used in all 6 dimensions. Or it can be.
Making it fun.
Making it fun. Yes, engaging, dynamic, experiential. Let's do stuff. Let's not just listen and talk or be passive. Let's be active. Make choices. Yeah. Using the 6 dimensions. Perfect.
John?
I just want to throw out before everybody leaves. I was looking at some of the speaker topic possibilities. If anybody out here is interested, I own a placement company, so I work with and I can talk about all the different assisted living group homes, centers, memory cares, the different facilities there. I work with a hospice and home health and palliative care company, so I can competently speak to the services that are provided, what's out there. I come from the insurance world and I'm a veteran. So if there's anybody who needs to understand Medicare, Medicaid, or VA benefits, those are also things that I can definitely come to your group and speak on and give them some information. Two other things. We have through the Parkinson's Foundation, anybody here with Parkinson's, if you guys want to do the genetic study, we have a grant through them right now through if you go on to the foundation website and go to PD Generation, you guys can enroll. It is free. They'll send you the sample kit to your house. It's a cheek swab, and it's helping to develop better medications targeting for different genetic makeups. And then we also have aware and care kits for anybody with Parkinson's that needs one. I can get them to you. If you don't mind just shooting me your contact information, I will put my email address in the chat as well. If anybody ever wants to reach out or get information or needs help with resources, please let me know. I have tons and tons of them, and all of my services are
This is Laura,
free.
may I help you?
That's wonderful. Thank you for mentioning all of that, John. You are a wealth of information, and especially for that area. And so I think it was Carolyn maybe who mentioned, someone did yesterday, the email list, wanting to share. Okay, so I will, John's put his information now, so if you want to just quickly be in touch with him, I'll also
Okay, I
offer.
just unmuted. So basically,
I will offer to provide names and email addresses for the group and share it, but you can let me know personally via email if you do not prefer to be on the list, and that's totally fine. There's no judgment there. People have capacities and all of that, so just no judgment there. Just let me know if you do not want to be on the list. Anything else as we close? I just want to express my gratitude, appreciation for all of you for what you're doing with your groups and the groups you're about to start, some of you. So great. I really loved our interactions and hearing from everyone. Thanks for your contributions. Hopefully crisscross my fingers and my toes, and next year we could do this in person and enjoy coffee and cookies in the same room, and we can be more playful. How's that? Is that a plan?
Nice.
Yes, excellent. Okay, well, thank you all so much again. I'll be sending follow-up materials. Please let us know how we can support you moving forward. We have free Zoom link opportunities for any of you wanting to start Zoom meetings with your groups, anything that we can help you with. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend, and I will be in touch early next week.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rachel. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Here.
Bye.